Welcome to my channel and my video. In this video, I am going to be finding the best instant porridge pot. Now I'm going for branded as well as supermarket own brand porridge pots. I have gone for a selection of different flavours because, believe it or not, original is the only flavour every single place did, and I'm not a massive fan of original porridge. It's just too bland for me. So I have got several different flavours and I am going to be filming this over the course of several days. I tend to have porridge in the mornings for breakfast. So although I have makeup on today, in many of the upcoming clips, I may not. So I will not be held liable if you watch this on an expensive screen and it cracks as a result. Just getting that out there. Each of these pots, you just add water and stir and leave it to sit and thicken. And I am going to put up shots of the ingredients and nutrition of each one. Just for those of you who are interested, you will need to probably pause the video to read those if you want to. I'm not going to go over it for every single pot because it would take way too long. I am going to be judging them mostly on things like texture and flavour. Now, I have said they are different types of flavour, so it's going to be stuff like the strength of the flavour. If it's meant to have fruit in it, how much fruit has it got? I will put prices up, but bear in mind some of these branded ones you can find at different prices at different times, depending on where they are and if they're on special offer. So the price that I will put up for those items is the price I paid. It could vary, but I feel it might be useful when judging which is the best to have price included in that. I'll rate each porridge out of 5, with 5 being this is amazing and 1 being I really wouldn't want to feed this to my worst enemy. Hopefully none of them will score 0, but you never know. If it gets a 0, it means I just can't finish this. Right, I'm going to stop talking and get the first porridge pot on. I am going to start with Lidl's golden syrup porridge. It's a much thinner consistency really than I like. I like my porridge a bit thicker than that. Obviously you can leave it to thicken a bit, or you can add more water if you like a runnier porridge, and you can do it to personal taste. But in the interest of fairness, I will be preparing the porridges exactly as it says on the pot. Taste time. This is so runny still. It has got a good golden syrup flavour. That's really nice actually. The texture's not bad. The oats are quite large and it's got a decent texture. I don't want to start my rating too high and then I've got nowhere to go. So I am actually going to give this a 4. It is a strong start from Lidl. I think if it was slightly sweeter, that would push it up to a 5 for me. But you can clearly taste its golden syrup flavour. It's got a lovely texture and yeah, it's a really good porridge. The porridge for today, apple and cinnamon porridge from Morrison's. I'll see you in 2 minutes. I don't think this is as runny as the Lidl porridge, which for me is a good thing. You can see plenty of apple pieces in it as well, and it's certainly got a strong apple smell. Okay, Morrison's, let's see how you measure up. The texture is lovely. Flavour, however, surprisingly lacking, and I have stirred it up to make sure, you know, it's not all like concentrated at the bottom. there's a very faint taste of cinnamon. And even though there's plenty of apple pieces in it, I'm not really tasting apple. It's quite bland. I mean, it's not disgusting. It just needs a more intense flavour. It has got a sweetness to it, but I'm only going to give this a 2. Sorry, Morrisons, could do better. This is absolutely the kind of day that was meant for porridge because it is pouring with rain and really strong winds outside. It is not nice. So I'm going in with my first branded porridge of the video, Quaker Oats So Simple in Velvety Caramel. It is another porridge which is really runny, and I have left it for at least 2 minutes. Also, the fill line in this pot is really difficult to see when you're pouring the water in. I think I got it right, but if anything, I was slightly under it. Doesn't really smell very much like caramel, if I'm honest, but it's the taste that counts. This just looks so watery. Very bland. It's got a slight sweetness to it, but I couldn't tell you this was caramel flavour, that's for sure. Texture-wise, velvety. Well, it is quite smooth, but I think that's because it's so runny. There's no real texture to it. If you like a thinner porridge, this would probably be a good one to go for, but I'm going to score it a 1 because you can get unbranded, cheaper porridges which are equally nice, if not nicer. So probably the leading brand in the UK. I don't rate. Not for the instant porridge pots. Next up, I have the mixed berries porridge from Sainsbury's. Now, this porridge is nice and thick, just how I like it. I left it to stand for 3 minutes. You can leave it for 2 to 3. Let's see what it's like. So there are chunks of fruit in it. It just says mixed berries. I'm guessing it's like blueberries and probably bits of strawberry or raspberry, or possibly both. It's got a lovely texture. It's thick, but not stodgy. It's quite creamy and smooth. It's got a sweetness to it, but I think it needs more fruit. I mean, I just got a blueberry in that mouthful and I could barely taste it. For me, it does need more fruit and more of a fruity flavour. I'm going to give this one a 3. It loses 1 point because it's a fruity porridge with not a lot of fruit in it, and I know most of these instant porridge pots do scrimp on the fruit, but I don't like that, so I'm knocking off a point. And it's also losing a point for the flavour because it doesn't have much. It's got a sweetness but no actual taste. Even when you get the fruit, you don't really taste it. So not bad, but not great. Average. Next for the taste test is the apple and cinnamon porridge pot from the Co-op. This is another really thin porridge and it's been sat for 3 minutes, which is the maximum time it says. It does smell of apple and cinnamon and there are plenty of chunks in it, so I will give it that, even if it is a very thin porridge. The flavour is definitely there. There's a juiciness to the pieces of apple, which I was not expecting. I would personally leave this to thicken up a bit more before I would eat it, but as I said at the beginning, I'm making them according to the preparation on the pot. So I'm going to score this a 4. If it was a thicker porridge, it would get a 5. The texture is lovely and smooth, and then you do get the crunchy apple pieces, which are really delicious. Well done, Co-op. Let's see how M&S do with their maple syrup flavoured porridge. I love maple syrup, and I really hope this doesn't just taste like golden syrup, because I'd be really disappointed. I managed to delete the footage of me showing you inside the porridge pot. It smells very strongly of maple syrup, but it's a very runny porridge. Let's give this a taste. The maple syrup flavour is not as strong as the smell. It is there, but it's actually very delicate. The texture is really oaty, and that probably sounds a bit weird considering it's porridge. With this one, it's like you can taste every individual oat. There's quite a lot of chewing in it compared to the others, and that's saying something considering some of the others have had fruit in. Now, this difference might be due to the fact this is made with whole grain oats. I don't know. I am not an oat expert, but it's not a bad porridge. I know whole grain oats, they're better for you and all of that, but I do prefer a slightly smoother texture to my porridge. So I'm going to give this one a 3. It loses points because of the texture and also the thickness of the porridge. Technically, I probably should not include this ambrosia ready-to-eat porridge because you don't make it with boiling water. You can actually eat it straight from the pot, or, as I'm going to do, microwave it. But I've never had this before and I really wanted to try it. So it's my channel and my video, and it's going to be included. This is really thick. This is the kind of consistency of porridge I like. I can't even stir it because it's so thick. The pot just slides about on the worktop because I'm having to hold my phone with one hand. So I'm hoping it's going to be good. This honestly smells so amazing and so creamy. It's got the texture of muller rice, which I adore, hot or cold. I tend to eat it cold though, but I wanted to try this porridge hot because that's how I've been having all the other porridges. But I've had overnight oats before, so cold porridge, not an issue. Flavour-wise, am I getting golden syrup? A little bit. It could definitely do with more flavour. I have to say, it's really good. I'm giving it 4 because the flavour does need to be more intense, but thickness-wise and texture-wise, it's absolutely perfect for me. However, I cannot usually get this kind of texture with porridge, so it feels a little unfair in that respect, but this is so good. The next porridge up for testing is the apple and blueberry porridge from Asda. This has been left for 2 minutes as stated on the container, and it is super thin. But the smell of apple and blueberry is unmistakable. Am I looking forward to this porridge? Well, it's so watery, but I've left it as instructed for 2 minutes. Add more water to adjust consistency if required. Definitely not required by me. It does have a good fruity flavour, which does surprise me. I think if I was having this and not doing it as part of a comparison video, I would leave it to sit for maybe another couple of minutes so it would thicken up, and then it would probably score a 5, but I'm giving it 4 because consistency wise it's too thin, but the flavour is there and the texture is nice. So yeah, Asda have surprised me with this. This is, I think you pronounce it Brocken, porridge from Aldi in strawberry or raspberry. and cranberry flavour. Well, I'm certainly not going to be complaining that this porridge isn't thick enough. It's had 3 minutes, as it says. One thing I will say about this particular porridge pot is the fill line is much, much higher up than it is on the others that I've had. It means you do have to be careful not to be too enthusiastic with your stirring, just in case it splashes. This is, this is the consistency I do like with my porridge. The thickness and texture are great. The flavour, however, I mean, I cannot see any bits of fruit in this porridge. It has a very subtle fruity sweetness to it, but the flavour is really lacking. I'm only going to give this a 2. It needs more flavour, and some pieces of fruit through it would be really, really good. Sorry, Aldi. Disappointing. Stoats raspberry and honey porridge, which is a flavour that very much appeals to me, so I do hope this won't disappoint. This is another super thick porridge, but you can see it's got plenty of fruit pieces in it, and it's got a really strong fruity smell. I can really smell the raspberry coming from it. It is a bit like cement, but very nice cement. The texture is lovely. I can taste the fruit pieces in it, and I think there is a slight sweetness from the honey flavour, contrasting with the tangy raspberries. I'm going to give this 4.5 because it needs, in my opinion, more fruit in it. But that aside, it's almost my perfect porridge. Flavour is there, texture is there. It just needs a little bit more fruit. There are now only 3 porridges left to go. So this is the final supermarket porridge, and it's Tesco, apple and blueberry. I didn't get one from Waitrose because I have to shop from there online, and there just wasn't enough stuff that I wanted to get to the £40 minimum shop for delivery, and they're so expensive. So Waitrose will not be included. Well, the thickness is okay, I guess. I can see some blueberries. It does smell delicious. So after 3 minutes, it's a decent thickness. It's not super thick like some of the ones I've had. Let's see if we can get, well, I'll just get a spoonful first and then I'll try and get a blueberry. The flavour is really, really delicious. I can clearly taste apple and blueberry in the porridge, and it does have a sweetness to it. There's a bit with a blueberry. The blueberry is so tiny, you barely notice it. It's a very, very tasty porridge. My only criticism really is it needs more fruit. So I think I'm actually going to give this a 4.5 as well, because it's not as thick as some of the other porridges, but it's still thick enough for my tastes, and flavour wise it's really good. Well done, Tesco. This morning I am going to be trying this fuel salted caramel porridge, and it's meant to be an extra high protein porridge, so I'm hoping it's going to be nice. This is another super thick porridge. It doesn't really seem to have much in it other than the oats. And the smell of it is just warm, sweet porridge. It doesn't specifically smell like caramel. Oh, I do spy some caramel just there. You can see a few bits of it. It's got a creamy texture. I'm not really getting much flavour from it though. And I'm definitely not tasting caramel, salted or otherwise. The texture's not as smooth as some of the others. Good consistency, but flavour lets it down. It actually almost tastes just like original porridge with no flavour to it at all. And for that reason, I'm actually just going to give this a 1. I don't think it's good value for money, and it's not that great to eat. It's all right, but I wouldn't rush out to get it again. The final porridge pot of this video is this Mama porridge, and this is the cranberry and raisin flavour. It said to give this 3 to 5 minutes, so I gave it 5. You can see though it's still a very thin porridge, but plenty of chunks of fruit, so I'm hoping this is going to be a good one. So here is my very runny Mama porridge. It doesn't really smell of much. There is a sort of a fruity smell to it, but not a strong one. I got no fruit in that mouthful, and it was pretty tasteless, to be honest. Got, I think, a raisin. It's all right. I'd say it's too runny. It's got a decent amount of fruit in it, but it's actually lacking in flavour. I'm only going to give it 1 because of that. So that brings me to the final results. If you've been paying attention, and don't worry if you haven't, it's been a long video. In first place, there is a tie between Stoats and Tesco, both with 4.5 out of 5. I then am going to look at price, and that means that, in my opinion, the best porridge pot is Tesco because it's cheaper than Stoats. If you'd asked me at the start which one I thought would win, I would probably have said Ambrosia or Quaker. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to let this Mama porridge thicken up a bit more before I finish it. But I hope to see you back here soon for the next video, and please excuse my makeup-free appearance. It is pretty early in the morning, and getting food in me so I can function is more important to me than painting my face. Bye.